a little background about the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association, and we'll do a brief introduction of our partner for tonight, which is Get Outreach, and of course, introduce our guest speakers. So the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association was established in June of 2020, and the purpose of the organization is to lead, educate, advocate, and empower our Black communities across Dufferin County and beyond. We have a strong focus on youth achievement and excellence, and of course, we have a number of scholarship opportunities that we are offering to young people in Dufferin and surrounding area, and our scholarship programs are currently open. So if you know any young people, please encourage them to apply. We do have a very special guest tonight from Get Outreach Works. And again, thank you so much for partnering with us. We have Andrea Kelly, who is going to give us a little bit of background about Get Outreach Works. But before we go into that introduction, I'm going to invite DCCBA's board member, Stella, to do a brief bio about our honored speaker for tonight, Captain Kevin Junor. And I want to purposely take a moment to read his bio in great detail, because I know he's going to be shy and he's not going to want to give himself the credit that he deserves. So I want to take a moment to have Stella read Captain Junor's bio, and then we'll have Andrea Kelly come on board and talk a little bit about Get Outreach, and then hand it over to Kevin for tonight's presentation. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Stella, please, let's have Captain Kevin Junor's bio.
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be with us tonight. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome our guests. Kevin Junor has a career with the Canadian Armed Forces Reserves that spans over 3 decades. He enrolled as a private and progressed through the ranks to be a Chief Warrant Officer, the most senior non-commissioned rank, and was appointed the Regimental Sergeant Major. Isn't that wonderful? Kevin is the first Black RSM in the history of the Toronto Scottish. He was also employed as a diversity advisor to the CAF leadership team. He then commissioned to be the captain. Kevin was deployed on 2 operational tours of duty to Sierra Leone as a senior military advisor in 2007, and most recently to Jordan as a project officer in 2020. Kevin Junor is a retired deputy superintendent from the Ministry of the Solicitor General. He has held other positions in his career with the Ontario Public Service, including change management consultant and diversity program advisor. Kevin is active in the community and has been the chair and member of various boards of directors, including the Policing Advisory Council of Caledon and the Northern Peel Community Church. He is a member of the Global Jamaican Diaspora Council and the International Liaison Officer of the Jamaican Combined Cadet Force. He has received several awards, including the Order of Military Merit and the Henry Jerome Professional Excellence Award. What a wonderful person he is. Welcome, Kevin Junor, to our session, and we hope to receive more from you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for reading that bio, Stella. And as you can see, Captain Junor has an amazing record, an impressive resume, and we're tremendously honored to have him join us tonight. I'm also honored to have some very special guests. I have Sarah Onyango on the line, and I do believe I saw Kathy Grant, who is another amazing historian and cataloging the accomplishments of our Black military leaders. So thank you for joining us. And of course, I see Avril Jones and Yvonne Kelly, and of course, our other board member, Jordan Stevenson, on the line. So welcome, everyone. I don't want to call every single name because I'm afraid I'm going to miss some key contacts. So I just wanted to take a moment to highlight just a few of you. And at this point, it is my honor to have Andrea Kelly from Get Outreach to talk a little bit about Get Outreach and hand it over to Kevin for tonight's exciting presentation. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Alethia, and also the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association for having us here this evening to talk a little bit about Get Outreach Works, and also to hear from our distinguished guest this evening, who I am honored to actually know in different community spaces, our Captain Kevin Junor. So let me just talk a little quickly about Get Outreach Works, and then hand it over to the speaker of the evening. So who is Get Outreach Works and what do we do? Get Outreach Works stands for Gathering, Evolving, and Transforming. We're a nonprofit organization designed to promote education, diversity, and community growth. And we've been able to do this in the last 3 years by fostering relationships within our community with community partners, such as the Town of Caledon, the Upper Grand District School Board, Johnny's Pizza, and our organization presenting this platform this evening, the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association, just to name a few. So additionally, we have supported the community through challenging times by collaborating with our community partners to address food and income insecurity. For example, we were able to partner with local businesses such as Johnny's Pizza, that I just mentioned, and the Smoky Island Grill in our Buy One and Give One challenge. And it was a successful event. I think I hear some feedback. Perhaps somebody could put on mute so that I don't hear it. But we were able to see the community involved in this by having members who were able to buy certain meals for the evening, and then other members, and then donate one meal, and then other members were able to come in and get those meals and provide it to their for their families. And we saw the success of that through working with Johnny's Pizza and the Smoky Island Grill and other organizations within the community. We also partnered with the Giant Tiger and the Shelburne Fire Department in our school supply initiative, where members in the community were also able to donate supplies, and families in need could then access those supplies for their young ones attending school. And then notably, we also, as a part of Get Outreach Works, we are honored and proud to provide our SEEP program, which stands for Cultural Immersion Through Educational Programs Initiative. And we have provided this SEEP program in the last 3 years, partnering with the Upper Grand District School Board. We're able to provide a 4-week enrichment program during Black History Month that delivers weekly cultural sessions. These cultural sessions honor the triumphs and the struggles of Black community through history, while also celebrating Black excellence, notably the accomplishments and the contributions that we have made within society. And so what's unique about this SEEP program is that it provides culturally relevant information, which is provided to our students. And we do this through working with the Upper Grand District School Board by presenting these in themes such as music, careers, dance, food, and military. And I tell you, I speak for Get Outreach members and myself that this program is not only enriching for the students, but also for ourselves. It was so amazing to see the youth in 2020 when we were able to meet face-to-face before and prior to COVID. And we were able to see the youth engaging in eating different foods, cultural foods, learning different African dance moves, and also learning about Black individuals who have made significant impacts in military, which we will hear this evening from our Captain Kevin Junor. So we continue to provide service to our community, and we look forward to growing. We look forward to opportunities to collaborate and support our community. And so we are looking for you to, if you want to hear more about us, to follow us on our social media platform, which I will provide for you momentarily in the chat. So that you can see what we're up to and what we're doing, and how you can also be able to provide support to the community as well in our different initiatives that we provide. And so you have heard the amazing introduction to Captain Kevin Junor. I would also like to add in just a little bit, because I do know Kevin Junor in different spaces, as I had indicated previously. So I've been able to see that there is truth to all that has been said in his profile. I've been able to see our Captain Kevin Junor get down to, the nitty gritty and just be a very natural and honest person working in the community through working and seeing him in youth retreats and various spaces where he works with the youth and he engages with the youth and also the community. And he's just someone who I know has a passion and is very a compassionate individual and has no problem meeting the needs for any projects or events that will support the community. So without further ado, for this evening, the speaker of the hour, Captain Kevin Junor. Over to you.
Welcome. That was amazing.
I'm not sure if I can live up to all of that. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored, I'm blessed to be able to share the space with you tonight. To DCCBA and Get Outreach, Alethia, to Andrea, Nicole, and Sarah and Kathy are online. So, those two powerhouses make me nervous. I just throw that out there. And Kathy's laughing right now, but that's good. I'm really, really blessed to be here tonight to talk a little bit about what we have done, who we are, and I probably won't get into a lot of depth, but I'm going to give you a high level view of us. It's important to recognize that the Black community have made significant contribution to the security of Canada and globally forever, right? We've been around, we've been doing things, but for the most part, what we have done has gone unreported. I'm going to try to share my screen here with you. I think only the host can share.
You should be good now.
Okay. Let's see if I can do it. Share screen. Start broadcasting. Okay, I think you can see that, right?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, we're good. So over the years, our story has relatively gone unheard. But last November, the documentary, The Black Liberators of World War II, was aired. And when that came out, it spoke about a number of Black men. We're looking at Bud Jones, we're looking at Owen Rowe, and others who have made a significant contribution to the military during World War II. And in that, although these men and women were able to serve, they had a challenge in being able to join the military. I'm not going to go into this too much, but if you get an opportunity, this was on the History Channel. If you get an opportunity, the Black Liberators, please take the time to look at that and see what it's all about. Now, although they spoke a lot about the Black Liberators, these men also stand on the shoulders of some other individuals that I like to talk about. And when World War I broke out, there were some things that happened. There were individuals like Private Jeremiah Jones, who was able to be one off in a number of regiments. But for the greater part of Black members, when Black men came forward and said, we want to serve Canada, we want to fight for king and country. For me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, there's war, we need men to fight, so let's go to war. Well, that's not what these men were told. Literally, they were saying, hold on there, young fella. This is a white man's war, all right? You're Black, we don't want you to fight. And if you look at our history as a people, we've been able to stand up to any conflict. But here we are in Canada, war broke out and they're told you can't fight, a huge roadblock. But as a people, we decided that we're not just going to sit there and take that answer, but they literally put pen to paper and they wrote to the government and said to the government, hey, we have a problem here. We want to fight for Canada, but we're told that we can't. You're the government, give us approval. But, and this is found in the late Senator Calvin Ruck's book about the No. 2 Construction Battalion. And the government came back and there was two very strong answers that they heard. They said, one, it's a white man's war. So really, you're Black, you don't fit in. And the second part was, it is at the discretion of the commanding officer if you can get into the regiment or not. And they kept on fighting. And as I said, there are a number of individuals who were able to get into units. But for the most part, the majority of Black men were not allowed. But as attrition happened, they said, hey, we need people to fight. And here came the recruiting poster saying, by the way, colored men, we don't really need you, but we want you. And as you come, we're going to use you. We're going to use you to fight. And as it says, men required for all kinds of construction work, right? If you were to ask me, that's slavery uniform, right? We're going to give you a uniform and we are going to allow you to go overseas when you reach the maximum strength. So if you read between the lines, they're saying you're accepted, but unless you come in mass, we're not going to take you anywhere, right? So they were able to amass enough individuals. And when they got the unit together, the interesting thing about this unit is all the soldiers were Black, but all the officers, all the commanders were white. So we have a number of men commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Sutherland. And here, when the men heard that they were accepted to fight, they didn't want to join a segregated unit. And the history states that once they found out that it would be a segregated unit, they didn't really want to join. But one thing about Black folks is when our pastor speaks, we have a way of saying, Pastor, we don't necessarily want to do that, but you're our leader, so we're going to do it. So Reverend William White, the chaplain of that battalion, did the work that was required. And on July 5th, 1916, the No. 2 Construction Battalion was formed in Pictou, Nova Scotia, right? And as they were formed there, it's interesting to look at things from a military perspective. When you join the military, you're looking to get a rifle, right? You're looking to get your helmet and go out there. But these men were given rifles. They were given picks, they were given shovels, they were given axes, so that they can go out there and they can build the roads, they can cut down trees, they can build defensive positions so real soldiers can fight from there. But the thing about these men was they went, and it was stated that they let us join, but they would not let us fight, right? So it's like you're part of the club, but not really. And as they went overseas, these men, they demonstrated discipline, they demonstrated commitment, integrity. The characteristics that you hear in the value proposition for a successful organization today, that's what we saw in the men of the No. 2 Construction Battalion. They fought in France, and some of them didn't return home. Others spilled their blood on foreign soil while their families were here, as any other soldier is expected. So when you put it in perspective, these men went knowing that they couldn't defend themselves, but they went and they fought. The government of Canada, I'm actually speaking to you right now from Nova Scotia. The government of Canada has decided that what happened to the No. 2 Construction Battalion was wrong. It was gross racism. So as a result of that, on July 9th, the government of Canada will be apologizing to the family and descendants of the No. 2 Construction Battalion. I'm blessed to be on the national advisory team that is coordinating this event. And, it will be in person and also be virtual. And DCCBA and GET will be able to facilitate viewing this there in Dufferin and in Caledon. So just keep looking and you'll get some more information about that. It's going to be an event that I think is momentous, right? The families, the descendants will be able to get together and see that the government is realizing that they did something that was wrong. The No. 2 had an impact on individuals. They had impact on members that will not just serve the military, but serve communities. And we look at individuals like former Lieutenant Governor Lincoln Alexander. Lincoln Alexander was a corporal in the Air Force, right? He couldn't go overseas because of various reasons, but he served and he left the forces as a corporal. You look at individuals like Judge Stanley Grizzell, right? He served overseas, he came back, and when he came back, he was able to, he was being a porter, and not only was he a porter, but he was very active in the union and fighting for the human rights. So look at these two individuals who initially wasn't embraced in the military, but they were strong men that learned from the organization, brought back the knowledge that they learned and implemented that in such a way that they became change agents for Canada, impacting the decision makers, becoming decision makers, men who served in the military. We look at Lieutenant Colonel Shelley Peters, OMMCD. And I'll talk a little bit about the OMMCD after. Now, Shelley was the first Black RCMP female officer, right? And after serving with the RCMP, she came to the Canadian Forces and serving in a human rights capacity, right? Looking after people, making sure that she did whatever was right and carrying on the legacy of her father. Major Walter Peters, CB, right? And Wally was an interesting person. The first Black member of the Snowbirds, right? So I remember sitting down with him and we were talking about his experience. And he goes, you know, Kevin, just before graduation, I was in line and there was the individual that was to be the reviewing officer. He came up to me and he asked me, what am I doing here? And I said, I'm a pilot and I'm graduating. And he looked at Wally and he goes, in my days, you wouldn't even be allowed to be in this building. And the next day, as the reviewing officer has to hand out the trophy for the top candidate, the top pilot on the course. And as he stood there getting ready to hand out the top pilot's award, he realized that he had to hand it out to Walter Peters. And, you know, the smile on his face, he said, Kevin, it was worth it just going through that event when he had to eat his words. Tell me that, first of all, I don't belong. And then he had to acknowledge me as the best of all the Canadian pilots that were here, right? So this is a story of a man who I got to know very well, to sit down with him advising me. You know, when we talk about women in the military, we don't expect to see beautiful women joining the military and carrying themselves and say, listen, I'm here, respect me. One of those individuals, Warrant Officer Junor Baptiste Jones. I mean, Avril, a friend, a colleague, I met her when she was a young corporal. And Avril said, I'm here, I want to make a difference. I know that they don't accept me, but she stood up. Avril have gone through the ranks to become a warrant officer. And I expect that she will go higher in the ranks. Avril has gone to Afghanistan. And I think just recently, if I'm not mistaken, she was in Kuwait, right? So here's an individual who has gone through and made sure that the administration for the organization is top notch, right? She is the chief clerk. So when I have problem, when the commanding officer has problem, they're not going to run to just the clerk. They're going to run to the chief clerk, right? Because she controls things. So, you know, Avril is one of those individuals that, regardless of whatever is going on, you know that things will be taken care of. And, you know, Chief Warrant Officer Anthony Jones. And if you put it all together, husband and wife, right? Now, Anthony Jones, he is the regimental sergeant major for the infantry school, right? Let's put this in perspective. He is responsible for training anyone in the Canadian Forces that wants to be in the infantry, anyone that wants to serve in a fighting role. Let's look at this from a man that is standing on the shoulders of the number 2 Construction Battalion. The number 2 would not be able to go to the infantry school because they're not infantry. They would not be able to go to the infantry school because they're not given a rifle. But here we now have the top sergeant major for the training, the dress, the deportment of all the soldiers that go through the infantry school, being a Black man. So look at how far we've gone. Look at how far we've come. And as we move forward, we see that there are so many individuals like Anthony, like Avril, like Shelley, like Wally, that have come through the military and have made a significant contribution to the service of Canada. I told you I would talk about the OMM or the MMM and the CD. Now, if you serve minimum 12 years, you get CD after your name. So it's CD, meaning that you have not gotten in any trouble. So you're a disciplined individual. So this go against what they've said about the number 2 when they rejected them. They said, these are undisciplined lot. Here we have individuals who are very disciplined, and it is demonstrated by CD after their names. I'll now look at the OMM or MMM. This is the Order of Military Merit. MMM is a member, OMM is an officer, and it's by ranks. I won't get into that too much. But anyone who is afforded this opportunity to be recognized like this, this medal is given by the Governor General of Canada, right? If I remember correctly, it is 0.1% of the number of members in the Canadian Forces can actually receive this award on an annual basis. So think about that. For Shelley, for Anthony to be selected and given this award, they have to be good. I really humbly want to present to you that being Black in the military, you face racism and you can't be just as good as everybody else. You have to be better. Just recently, the minister just received a report that was presented by Major General Ed Fitch and his team. And the report says there's blatant racism in the Canadian Forces right now. We've come a long way, but the challenges is still there. And as we move forward as a people, we still have to overcome these barriers. So, you know, we have people like Corporal Ainsworth Dyer, who went to Afghanistan, and he gave his life for the Maple Leaf. We have Chief Warrant Officer Anthony Jones, who went to Afghanistan, spilled his blood on foreign soil. However, individuals like Chief Warrant Officer Jones still continue to serve the Canadian Armed Forces with pride. We as a people, we're a proud people. We proudly look at how we can serve the Canadian Armed Forces. I would humbly like to add my name to the list of men and women who proudly serve the Canadian Forces. And I'll end with a few words that I'm sure we've heard before. Maya Angelou, she has a poem that says, I rise, I rise, I rise. And we, the Black men and women who put on uniform, continue to rise, continue to stand holding our heads up high, continue to be proud of who we are. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you very much.
Wow, wow, wow. Chills. I mean, in just over 100 years, you know, we've come so far, but yet still a very long way to go. You know, just hearing the beginning of your presentation, you know, you're talking about, you know, the number 2 construction battalion, wanting to serve and not being able to, given, you know, acts and forts to go overseas. And here we have, you know, I can't remember his title, but Mr. Jones now being able to lead the infantry, you know, that's volumes. I have chills just hearing that, and it's a proud moment, and that's exactly what I wanted to hear, you know, because there are so many stories of our Black military leaders that haven't been shared. They're untold, and we need to hear them. And you know, I do get the Legion, and every time I receive the book, I scan through it. Before I start to read, I scan through it just to see if I could see a Black face, and I have yet to see a Black face. So I'm hoping that things will change soon. I do have a few questions before I turn it over to the audience. And before I lose my train of thought, I have to say thank you. This was perfect. This was in depth, and I think I want to have a session number 2. I want to go deeper because I'm sure there is so much more history, and perhaps I can tap Kathy Grants to partner on the next event.
Yes, yes.
But couple questions that jump out for me. I know you're doing, or there is an apology that is taking place on July 9th. Do we know if there are any descendants from the number 2 construction battalion that will be part of this this apology and, you know, receiving that formal apology from the government?
Great question. The team, the National Advisory Committee, has done extensive consultations across Canada. As a matter of fact, in the meeting today, we have spoken to upwards of 700 individuals with regards to what should the apology look like, who should be making the apology, etc. And the team led by Russell Gross and Lieutenant Colonel Hopritcher will be presenting a report to the minister very shortly. There are a number of individuals who have identified themselves as descendants of the men of the number 2, and a number of them will be on site in Truro on that day. There are activities that are planned specifically to recognize them, because this apology, it's for the Black community, but it's mainly for the descendant. The blood runs through their veins, showing the experience of their predecessors, right? The men of the number 2, they took whatever was thrown at them and they put it aside and they said, we're going to serve. So now we're going to recognize their descendants, and yes, they will be there.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And to add to that, I'm not sure if everyone on the call is aware, but the town of Shelburne and an initiative led by Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson last year placed a plaque in the Shelburne Community Gardens honoring the number 2 construction battalion, and DCCBA was honored to go to the unveiling of the plaque and capture some pictures. So another proud moment, you know, that we're able to recognize these trailblazers that, you know, paved the way for us to be able to participate in the military today and continue to be proud as a nation, as a group of people. So well done, well done. I'm just going to scan through the chat and see if there are any questions. I'm seeing some comments here saying, Kevin has been the trailblazer for us. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Avril, for sharing that. Awesome, bravo from Kathy. Gratitude to all our Canadian men and women who have served and continue to serve in the Canadian Forces. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Stella, for your service. Nicole, well done. Thank you to all the women and men who sacrifice their lives daily for freedom. And of course, there's a link for the apology that Sarah has shared. And another website from Veterans Affairs Canada. So amazing, amazing, thank you. I'm gonna turn it over to the audience to see if anyone has any questions. I still have chills. While everyone is gathering their thoughts, maybe this is a question for both you, Captain Junor and Kathy Grant. Is there a way or a website or any kind of historical record capturing and cataloging all of the great accomplishments of our Black men and women who have served and continue to serve?
I'm gonna let Kathy jump on that one. Kathy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Last November, we launched a website, www.blackcanadianveterans.com, and it has a series of Black men as well as women who served. It has a series of interviews. It's image rich. We have Instagram. We have YouTube. It's linked to our Facebook page. And it covers like a wide variety from, I guess, like the Second World War, current serving members, Women Avril is on there, Shelley Peters is on there. I know that Kevin mentioned Walter Peters. I'm just gonna click a link in here. There's a video from the Veterans Affairs Canada website where Walter Peters is mentioning number 2 Construction Battalion. So as part of a project that Sarah and Yango and I worked on a while back, and Kevin was there as well. So both Sarah and I have known Kevin for more than, I would say at least more than a dozen years.
Wow, that's amazing. So Kathy, perhaps I'll reach out to you and get the link. I think that's something that we can definitely host on our page, just a link to, catalog and gather some of our rich Black history. And I think it's important that these stories are told. Obviously, it has a significant impact on our young people and, even adults alike. I'm still here just, proud and standing even taller, just hearing the stories and the great accomplishments. So I would definitely love to, share that link on our website. So thank you. I see a few raised hands. I'm going to turn it over to, I'm going to start from Stella, and then we'll get to Steve. So Stella.
Yes, I have a question for Captain Kevin. I was wondering how we could get our young people into the military. What do you think the community, what are the requirements, or how do we prepare the youth to be in the military?
Good question. One, I'm not a recruiter, but I can talk about a couple of things. The Canadian Forces have there's a recruiting site that you can go on, and it'll give you a number of pieces to look at. Now, when people look at the military, they look at the regular force, but they don't think about the reserves, right? There are two components. Regular force is your job, it's your career, it's everything that you do. The reserves is when you do part-time, right? So for the most part of my career, I've been a reservist. So I've done this part-time along with my career in the Ontario Public Service. So it's forces.ca. So if you're 17, you can start looking at joining the reserves. Make sure it's somebody that's in school, right? Because you need a certain amount of credits in order. And by the way, I'll throw this out there, for post-secondary education, the military will also subsidize your education. If you're in the reserves force, I think you get something like $2,000 a year just for being in school if you are a member of the reserve. So you're 17, you are in good physical condition, and not everybody has to be in the infantry. There's administrative positions, there's driving, there's some, almost any job that you can find out in the regular world, you can find in the military. So if you want to talk offline, we can look at that. All right.
Thank you so much.
That was a great question, Stella. And I know I've had the opportunity to work with a number of youth in our community, and that question has come up. And I know one of the fears that I've heard is that they have to travel out of country or overseas to fight in wars, right? And I'm hearing now that that's not necessarily the case. There's administrative work that can be done as well.
I'll tell you what I'll do is, if you set up a session, I would personally come, and I would bring recruiters with me, and we can make a presentation.
Awesome.
That's Perfect. Yeah, and I'm actually thinking we might do another virtual session and get some more young people to come on board. So yeah, we'll talk offline. Perfect.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Love it. Steve?
Thanks, Alethia. Sorry for joining late, but the old saying is better late than never, especially with these two guests. First of all, let me just share this before I talk about Kevin and make my comments about Kevin and Kathy. Is for the longest time when Remembrance Day would come along, everybody would wear their puppy, including myself. And if I want to be honest, it came to a point in time where I became disillusioned with Remembrance Day because of the fact that I didn't see our Black, Brown, and Indigenous war heroes getting the same recognition that others were getting. And so when Remembrance Day would come, I'd kind of like, I just wasn't feeling it, to be honest with you. But now, as of late, we're starting to see more of those who have contributed finally getting the limelight. And that is not by coincidence. It's not by happenstance. It's by individuals like Kathy, who is doing tireless work to chronicle and document and to share these stories to empower members of our community, not just the Black community, but the entire community, because it's important as Canadians that we know the contributions of everybody who's made the ultimate sacrifice. And so, first of all, I want to thank Kathy for her tireless work, going all over the place, interviewing and chronicling and documenting so that we could go to a central place and be able to see and being inspired. And then to my dear brother here, who I just go on your phone for a moment and just type in Kevin's name, and you'll see this long, distinguished service in the military. I believe Kevin over 30 plus years, 34 plus years in the military, recognized and respected by people across Canada. And I just want to say that I salute you for continuing to be present and showing that there were others who have contributed and made the ultimate sacrifice. And so it gives me great pleasure to be on today. Even if I came on for a few minutes, I just wanted to share my comments. And so thank you both.
Thanks, Steve.
Well said, Steve. And for those of you who don't know, this is the Deputy Mayor for the town of Shelburne. So thank you for sharing, and great job in having the No. 2 Construction Battalion recognized and a plaque installed in the town of Shelburne. So kudos to you for that. There was a question. Let me just scroll through the chat. For Blacks who are newcomers to Canada and have no military history in their family, how do you make these Black military achievements relevant? Powerful question.
Could you say that again?
For Blacks who are newcomers to Canada and have no military history in their family, how do you make these Black military achievements relevant?
Great question. The thing to look at is I really didn't have anyone in my family that was in the military. The recruiter came to my school and offered me a summer job. And money, I'm physically fit, I'm gonna get paid, I'm gonna shoot guns, I'm gonna go places. Money. So I joined. Now that was a motivator for me at the time. I think today the military has something similar but better. They make a commitment to you that if you join the military today, for 4 summers, they commit to employing you for the entire summer. Right? So think about that. 4 years, you know that every summer the military will employ you. So you're engaged in training, you're engaged in discipline, you're engaged in, just building your capacity as an individual, right? So in that's one of the ways to be able to sell it. And as a people, we are storytellers. So let's tell the stories. Let's tell the stories of individuals. And there's enough individuals identified on the website that Kathy is managing or others that can relate to individuals, the youth. So let's find the appropriate person, share that story, and then let's get some speakers. There there's a network of us that's out there that you can actually call on, and we can do things virtually now. So as I said, I'm in Nova Scotia. So let's take advantage of it. COVID has been a bit of a blessing in which we're now able to do things like this. So let's take advantage of the technology and educate our individuals and answer those tough questions that they have so that they can become engaged.
Great question and great answer. I love that. I'm seeing a comment here in the chat and I have to read it out. Thank you, the late Owen Rowe, Kathy's father, for the annual wreath laying honoring Black veterans at the National Televised Remembrance Day ceremony. So again, a little bit of history that many in our community, many across Canada isn't aware of. So thank you, Sarah, for sharing that with us tonight. Are there any other questions? Steve, you still have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. Just very quickly, Kevin, so I serve, well, forget about that. What would you say that the military, as much as there are a lot of positives, we hear of instances where there might be environments within the military that may not be as inclusive as we would like it to be. What, in your opinion, what do you think that the military could do more to ensure that we're getting recruits that are diverse and that represent Canadians, and that when they're there, that they are treated with the respect that everybody deserves when they are making the sacrifices that they are?
Great question, Steve. I think the reality that we have to face first is that we draw in recruits from the broader Canadian society, right? And when you look at the broader Canadian society, there are individuals that have values that are not necessarily inclusive. So as those individuals come in, what the military has to do is, one, develop the policies. The policies that's saying that those behaviors are not tolerated. And I'll tell you, in my over 30 years, the policies are in place. There's no questions about the policies, right? But what happens after the policy is the behavior and the accountability. So we have some individuals who they demonstrate their personal values more so than the corporate values. And as we identify those individuals, and General Fitz spoke very well about those individuals, what the Canadian Forces is now doing, more so than before, is they're making sure that those people are identified and disciplined, and discipline can go as far as to be removed from the Canadian Forces, right? I've been involved in 2 court-martials in the past number of months, right? So that is military justice at work, because these individuals did what the organization considered to be going against the values. Probably the harder part to this, Steve, is change, right? Change management is not very easy because we're looking at cultural change, and cultural change takes about 2 generations, right? So we can start the ball moving, but as the ball is going, the organization changed leadership on a regular basis, right? And if we look at our, we're going through a provincial election right now, right? As we go through that election, we don't know who the next leaders are going to be. So the change that started right now, we don't know if that's going to continue. So it's to be able to create a change management culture, a change management mind frame, and to ensure that the policies and procedures that are in place, that it will also provide a vision that will outlast the current leadership. Because as the new leadership comes in, they come in with their own vision, right? So if the organization, and I believe the organization is looking at that right now, especially after the recent report, they're looking to say, now that we've identified that over a number of years, we haven't really moved the yardstick, right? Let's now put something in place. And I'll be frank with you, it's out there in the public domain. A number of years ago, I identified that BIPOC communities was not being profiled as much as we should be. And we challenged the policies and the procedures, and I was told right up front it was going to be done. And here I'm looking 15 years later, I saw another photograph of the representation of the entire military, and the BIPOC community was not recognized. So I had to go back to the organization and said, we discussed this many years ago, but there has been change. So it's a long-winded answer, but this one is really passionate for me because over 30 years, I've seen some changes in the policies, but the behavior is what we really need to hold people accountable for, right? And accountability is imperative as far as I'm concerned. So people like Chief Warrant Officer Anthony Jones, as a regimental sergeant major, one of his roles is to make sure that people are held accountable, right? So as he's doing that, the culture of the organization will definitely change.
Perfect. Wow, thank you. I see a comment from Sarah, and I want to read it out because I have a follow-up question, and I'm very conscious of the time as well. Our Black community must do better, collectively, to publicly honor our veterans and serving military. Why don't all Black churches have Remembrance Day services during Remembrance Week, November 5th to 11th? First of all, I didn't know that there was Remembrance Week. I am aware of Remembrance Day, so thank you for sharing that knowledge, Sarah. But that's a great question. How can we as a community honor our Black military leaders? Like, I know there's always a Remembrance Day ceremony, but there isn't any focus on our Black community.
I will have you know, great question and statement, Sarah. There is over Remembrance Week, we actually have a month where any organization can contact the Canadian Forces and ask for a speaker to come to your organization. For a couple of years, I was actually the coordinator for the Greater Toronto area, and schools, churches, organizations can contact the military and ask for a speaker to come, and they can either be there in person or virtually to actually do that. So at a church, we can get speakers that can come in to the church. We can get, again, to any organization. On Remembrance Day, I usually do at least 2 sessions on the Sunday before I speak at least 2 churches. Okay,
that's good to know. And in terms of laying a wreath, it would just be the same wreath that is laid for all veterans at the, is it the cenotaph?
Cenotaph?
Yeah.
At the cenotaph. Get Outreach and our church have a wreath within Caledon. So every year when the wreath are laid, that wreath is laid by a member of Get or the church, right? As they call their name. So that's something that any community can organize at the cenotaph. If you have a Remembrance Day service or the Sunday before, the churches can have their wreath. The families can have their wreath and said, this is something that I'm doing.
Wonderful, perfect, thank you. I know we are at time, but I want to open it up to anyone else who have questions before we officially close. Any questions, anyone?
I don't have a question, but I have a statement. I would love to present and follow Kevin and talk a bit about the military as well as number 2 Construction Battalion. I know that on Donald Moore Day, we received some good news that the records linked to number 2 Construction Battalion, 95% of them are now available online. So anyone in the world can see those records. So I just want to bring that out there, that we are making progress, and the records will be, or records are available, that anyone can see those records, and they are online.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kathy, and I will definitely follow up with you. There are some great comments in the chat. I want to read them out because I think they are important and the point of today's presentation. Many Black leaders, politics, clergy, public service, etc., served in the Canadian Forces. That's great. Thank you, Sarah. Wilson Brooks was in the Air Force, a first Black principal in Toronto. Leonard Brathwaite, RSCAF, first Black member of the provincial parliament. Again, amazing knowledge that I was not aware of. For the Toronto Catholic Board, they had an Afrocentric Remembrance Day. Avril, Kevin, and other Black current serving members participated. Awesome. Thank you so much. So if I don't have any other questions, I'm going to wrap up and, extend my thank you to Kevin and the entire Get Outreach team on behalf of DCCBA. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your dedication to our community by sharing your knowledge with us. And thank you for service in the military, right? Your honored record is, it makes us all proud. And I think I've shared this sentiment with you, Kevin, before on a personal level, hearing your story and seeing all of the great accomplishments that you have personally achieved, it's a moment of pride for me as a Black woman to see a Black brother serving, in a very distinguished way. It's an honor. It makes me stand taller, and I have hope that, we've made some progress, and I have hope for the future. So thank you for your time, and thank you for being with us here tonight. To Kathy and Sarah, thank you for your hard work in, chronicling the great accomplishments of our men and women who have served. Avril and your husband, sorry, I forgot his name, Mr. Jones.
Anthony.
Thank you. I need to say your titles, but I don't know your titles officially. So please know that I appreciate you and appreciate the dedication that you have done in the military to serve our country and to make our community proud. Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson, as usual, thank you again for the work that you're doing in the town of Shelburne, not just for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but for honoring the number 2 construction battalion. And for all of our supporters who came out to gather all the knowledge tonight shared by Captain Junor. Thank you for your support. To our board members, Stella and Jordan, thank you for coming out. And of course, I have to give a big shout out to Josh McEwen, who's always here supporting us in the background. Richard, thank you so much for coming out. So everyone, thank you. This brings us to the end of our night. If you haven't yet registered for our YouTube channel, please subscribe. Once we have edited this video, it will be loaded on our YouTube channel so you can rewatch and share and make sure the knowledge is getting out there to our community. And of course, the scholarship portal is open for our young Black students. So please make sure that you're sharing the information with our young people so that they can benefit from the great scholarships that we have. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Amazing
Thank you.
session. Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you. God bless.